Sorry guys, 2 seconds. I know I don't think anybody will be here yet, but that's okay. This is sort of a last minute live stream, so give me 2 seconds. Should be live. Alright, well, anyway, hold on one more second. I'm just trying to set up a way that I can see the chat just in case anybody does drop in. I'm sort of using this live stream as a impromptu recording. I'm gonna do a quick tutorial, and I'm using the lovely Dawn at Shiny Silver Treasures Matthew and Maisie collection to make the quick card today. I figured I would just do a mini tutorial, like if you need a card at the last minute, this is a quick way that I put it together, so maybe that'll help you if being able to put a card together quickly is something that you struggle with. So, sorry, give me 2 more seconds. 2 more. Okay, and let me make sure that my sound is off so I don't create a hilarious sound loop like I did last time. Okay. Alright. And also stay tuned at the end. I am finally actually able to get to the giveaway, so I'll give info on that, and I have some well, not really channel news, but I have some fun news that's going to be coming up here in about another week or so, so stay tuned for that as well. So, alright, so before I get distracted and go out to my mental left field, let me start out with what I'm using today in addition to Dawn's Matthew and Maisie collection. And again, this is like a quick go-to method that I use when I need to make a card at the last minute. It just keeps it easy. But I know sometimes for some people it can be a struggle. You know, if they have to think of something under pressure, it can sometimes make it harder to figure out what you want to do, and then we just kind of get that mental gridlock. So, all right. So thank you guys. If you do jump in here, like I said, I know this was not announced, and it's more about putting the video up there. It'll get recorded into YouTube, and it keeps me from having to re-record crap, so I better figure out what I'm going to say, because, you know, you can't stop and re-record a live stream. And that just gets hilarious after a while when you're trying to redo your voice in a video. So I figured I'll just jump on and make a quick card, you know, make it a mini tutorial, and we'll go from there. So, all right, so what I've done to kind of help speed things along, and again to help keep me on track, I started with the card base. I have some papers that I needed to use up as a part of the stash busting process that I do. So I thought this color would be fun. It's like a watercolory ombre paper I picked up. Oh crap, I don't remember. Was it Hobby Lobby about 3 years ago? I think it was like 3 years ago I picked up this paper pad. It's a really nice weight. I don't know if they still have it. I try to stay out of there just because, you know, if you want to stay on a budget, that's not a good place to go. And I pulled some elements together as well. I brought in some yellow cardstock also out of my stash. The stencil that happened to be here because I thought this would also be fun for some interest. I pulled out one of Dawn's foiled sentiments, and the colors I'm bringing in just to add, again, just a little bit of extra detail to the card. Rusty Hinge and Vintage Photo for inking, and I'll probably use this through the stencil on the yellow, but in any case, let me just go ahead and get started. So when you have trouble, one thing I would recommend if you are pressed for time, one thing you might want to do if you haven't already considered it is get cardstock, either are pre-made cards, I should say. So if you buy them pre-made, that's perfect, because if you keep some on your desk and it's just a pack of the pre-made cards, doesn't matter what size. I typically use the A2, which is 4¼ by 5½. Keeping pre-made card bases ready and on your desk is absolutely perfect. That's where I got this from. I can't really show you here because I would have to move the camera and God knows what would happen with that. But there's a little box I keep right in front of me, and I went ahead and pre-cut down the card stock. If you take an 8½ by 11 and cut it in half, then you automatically have 2 A2 sized cards, which again is the 4¼ by 5½. So I went ahead and pre-cut a bunch of these, and every now and then, depending on the project, I just pull one from that box. It's right here. And then for today, the only thing I had to do was bring in some additional elements for the yellow cardstock, because I'm going to be using this as a matting layer. I started out with it being cut from an 8½ by 11 piece of cardstock to 4 and 5¼ so that way if I use the whole thing and I still haven't fully decided, it gives you a really nice border for the edge of the card, so you can see that blue and the green in the card base, and then I can come in and layer this on top. So just to give you a quick idea of the measurements and stuff that I use, I don't typically measure very often, only when I feel I absolutely have to. So that's sort of become the go-to, that I will automatically cut matting layers down to 4 by 5¼ to start, and then go from there. And like I said, I brought in one of Dawn's, I think it's the copper foiled sentiments, and one of the pre-cut daffodils from the Matthew and Maisie collection. I think this is from the Easter part of the collection. So just a quick background on what I do typically, because by having that sort of mental formula, somebody asks me for a card at the last minute, this is like my go-to layout, that I have the card bases ready, I will cut a matting layer, and then whatever focal point I want, I just kind of put it all on the desk, and then from there I can assemble it pretty quickly. So like I said, I haven't decided if I'm going to use this whole matting layer. So what I'm going to do first is, I sort of start from the bottom up, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is ink up the edges of the blue with the vintage photo. Just again, words today. Just again to add a little bit of interest, and it also adds depth without actually having a ton of layers, because as we know, if you have a super detailed or dimensional card, that can be difficult to mail, and you also have the extra added expense of extra postage for a really dimensional card, because they can't run it through the sorter that has to be sorted by hand. That's where the charges come from. So just inking this up really quick. I am really working hard mentally to stay on task with the mini tutorial. So if I stray off a little bit, I do apologize. I will try to keep it relevant. And I think what I also want to do while I'm at it is do a little bit to kind of darken the edges. I think, what would you call that? I think it gives a little bit of a vignette appearance. So let me just go around to all 4 corners and darken that up just a little bit. I don't want it to be super dark, which is also why I chose the vintage photo. This is a lighter brown shade than like ground espresso if you use the Tim Holtz lines of the Distress Oxides. So it just gives enough of a shading to it without being super dark. So all right, let me set that aside. And I have found I like the finger daubers were my preference, but the problem I was running into is because they're foam, they wear out pretty quick, and then you start getting little speckles. And it is amazing how much ink is stored in those little speckles of broken foam, those little bits. And then I was starting to get smears in my project where I didn't want them. So I picked up some. They're inexpensive off of Amazon. I got a big multi-pack. I think it was like 10. I got 2 10-packs, I think it was. I can't remember for sure because it's been a minute since I got them. And while these are a little bit harder on my hand to use, I do a lot of heavy lifting at work. So sometimes if I'm using stuff like this, it can kind of make my hand cramp. But for the most part, it hasn't been too bad, and it does blend really nicely. So cost-effective use for blending, or item for blending, and it also, you don't have that shedding of those little speckles like you do from the foam daubers. So that's why I went ahead and transitioned over to the brushes. So anyway, little side note. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. And what I'm going to do to, again, add just a little bit of interest here on the matting layer. So for this reason, I might just keep the whole matting layer as the one piece instead of trimming it down. But I'll review, you know, I've tried to give myself options because sometimes I will change my mind like midstream. That's probably something pretty common for a lot of us crafters. You know, we come in with one idea and then we decide we like something a little better. And I'll try to lift this up to the camera because I know sometimes it can be hard to see what you're doing. And I will try to remember to also look at the camera so it feels like I'm talking with you, not to you, if that makes sense. So, again, this is just a way to add some subtle detailing to your project, giving it the appearance of some dimension without really having all that dimension, if that makes sense. You know, you can kind of fool the eye a little bit and yet still save yourself on postage. So, all right, what I'm also going to do is go ahead and, oh wait, you know what? Before I do that, see how that is? We change our mind midstream. So before I do the inking the edges, let me first, I prefer to use the double-sided tape, especially on the bottom layers that are going to attach directly to the card base. And the reason I do this is, it's not that it's actually going to be a bad thing, but I try to make sure that glue will not either saturate the paper or show under the paper. Just, it's a personal preference. There's not really any right or wrong. But over the years that I've been making the card bases, I have found that I really like using tape on the, oh, I guess, yeah, no, never mind. For 3 seconds, I thought I was putting tape on the card base, but, ooh, scared myself for a second. Because, you know, this piece, the card base is bigger than what I'm putting the tape on right now, so that would have been hilarious. I would have had the tape exposed if I had actually been funny and put the tape in the wrong spot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, and I took the tape off just so I can kind of hold the paper in place. Again, just a small little quirky preference, because sometimes the paper will slide when I'm doing the roughing up the edges, and then I make too big of a gash, so I'll just pull the little release paper off of the tape. It's not going to affect it being able to stick to the card base, and it kind of helps keep me hold it in one spot while I'm doing this. Sometimes I like extra big scrapes, and you know, where it'll cut into the paper, I don't mind, but today I'm trying to keep this simple, so I'm trying to be careful, if that makes sense. So sorry, let me just get this out of the way. The little floofy bits coming off of the paper. And again, you know, this is taking longer than it would normally just because I'm doing like a tutorial, like I said. But keeping a quick format like this really makes it easy if it's a, oh crap, I forgot to make a card kind of a moment, or if somebody asks you for a card, you know, at the last minute. It's nice to have a quick and simple format for getting one put together. So it might not also be bad if you have room in addition to the card bases. Maybe keep like a little stash of matting layers and embellishments and stuff nearby. That can also help in making a quick assembly when you need a card on the fly. But again, you have to take it. I mean, everybody's craft room is different. I used a door for my desktop. It sits on top of my storage cubbies that are under they all sit under here, and that gives me a little bit more room than what maybe a typical desk would give you. So, you know, as you get into crafting, especially if you're new, you'll kind of get a feel for what to keep by you, like things that you would use more frequently and stuff like that. But just as a quick tip of being able to put cards together quickly, it might not be a bad idea to just keep a small stash of supplies ready at, you know, anytime you need to put something together really quick. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and attach this matting layer. It's ready to go, and again, I don't measure, I just kind of eyeball it. So I'm just trying to line it up before I get it into place, and if it's a little wonky, I don't mind. Because again, these are handmade. They're not going to look always absolutely perfect because we do make them by hand. All right, let me get this out of the way. I am doing pretty good for staying on task, which is pretty impressive. So, all right, so now we have the card base and the matting layer are all set. And let me see if I can hold that up, if you can see. I know lighting is something I'm going to have to work at in here, but let me try this camera. Maybe this will be a little bit easier. But you can see the shading. Hopefully it's, I can't, my eyes are crap. The computer monitor is far enough away where I can't see the finer details, but hopefully you can see that brick pattern. It's very subtle. I didn't want it too much, but again, it just adds that little bit of interest to your project. You know, sometimes the little details can make all the difference. So the card base is ready to go. So now we'll start assembling like the focal point and the sentiment and stuff like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's see. I was debating if I want to. Yeah, I think I do. I'm going to put this up. This part is going to go up on some foam tape. It's a very thin foam tape. If I have it anywhere around here, let's see what is by my desk. Yep, you know what? We're going to have to dip into the new roll. This is a thing of foam tape that I got from, I believe it's Simon Says Stamp, and it's called Big Mama. It's like a big, huge roll. I'll show it here in just a second. And they had it on sale. Sorry, I got crap falling over here on my desk. They had this on sale not too long ago, so I went ahead and grabbed one because this will last you like forever. If you can kind of see my hand for reference for the size, it's big, but it's very thin. So that is also a good way of using a thinner foam tape. You can add dimension, again, without making it too much where you will need extra postage. So I'm going to do that as soon as I can get this little, they put a little piece of tape on there to keep it from coming separated and shipping. Sorry, my nails are like crap. I'm a lunch lady, which means my hands are constantly scrubbing and washing and everything, and so my nails, I think they just give up. Yeah, they grow, but they're very, not brittle so much as like weak, just because they're constantly getting wet. So, anywho, just a little side note there, but it does make it difficult sometimes to peel stuff up. I have to work at it a little bit harder. So I'm probably going to need that back. I think I'll need some more. Again, not much on measuring. I just kind of go with it. So I might need to bring that roll back. Yep. I did not quite peel up enough. So let me put that down and then grab another piece, and then this should be good. So again, this card would probably take, without it being during a mini tutorial, this card could probably take you about 10 minutes from start to finish. You know, provided you don't have to dig around for supplies in your craft room, because, you know, we know how that can be a little bit. So I think 4 strips should be good. Yeah, that should be perfect. Just, I try to make sure I fill it in enough so it doesn't sag, if that makes sense. This isn't really thin paper, which is also nice. The thicker paper, you don't have to worry about sag quite as much. But I am a security girl, so I try to make sure everything is buttoned down, glued down, taped down, and all that stuff. So, okay, and I think what I'm going to do too, I wasn't going to, but I think I will now, is come in and ink up the edges of this as well. So let me do that really quick. You know, it really is just simple. Just this, putting some kind of a simple format for yourself is one of the probably the best lifesavers, especially when you're making a card quick or have to make a card quick. So like I said, having a pre-made card bases, or if you cut them down yourself, just keep a stash on your desk. Maybe also keep a small little basket of supplies like matting layers and focal points, embellishments, sentiments, and all of that. And might also, if you use things like the Nuvo drops that I'm going to finish this off with, this is also something that you can keep with your supplies just to add, again, a little detail. If you don't have time for it to dry, if you need it even faster than that, then maybe pick up some like gemstones or little I think that's probably it. I think that would probably be it. Just gemstones. Like, just keep a little packet of maybe neutral colored gemstones in with your little supply kit, just to add a little bit of bling. And then the only thing that I recommend for using the gemstones is it's not a bad idea to add just a little bit of glue to the bottom of it, because the ones that are they have the adhesive already on them. Sorry, brain is just like, woo. Sometimes what is on there doesn't always stay, it's not tacky enough, if that's what I'm trying to say in some long-winded way. So to be sure that it will hold, it's not a bad idea to add a little dab of glue to your gemstones if you're adding them to your card to finish it off. So in this case, since I'm not actually pressed for time for a card, I can get away with using the little Nuvo drops, since this is just a demonstration. So hopefully I'm not giving too much. You know, when this is on replay, you can always kind of go back and rewind to rewatch the tips that I'm giving for today. And again, if you are new, after a while, you really will start getting a feel for what you need to do, or what is good to keep on hand for yourself for quick card making projects. And I am cutting off a small piece of the foam. Actually, let me trim that down a little bit. I don't need it to cover the whole back, because what I'm doing is I'm using a piece of foam tape on part of the sentiment piece, so that way it's even with this top layer right here for the focal point. So again, that way it's avoiding any sag when it goes through the mail, or even if you're handling the envelope. So I think I want this one. Nope, I think I want this one. This one is a little bit skinnier, so I'm just going to put that on the bottom. Let me make sure where. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I thought that was it. You know, there have been a few times where I've done this little trick and put it on put it on the wrong side that I needed to. So sometimes you can fix it, and well, sometimes you can't take it back off and reposition it. I figured I'd better catch that for today's project. So here you can see I've got, trying to hold it up. I don't know if you can see it at the angle, but I just got that little tiny piece of the foam tape to make sure that the sentiment is flush with the focal point of Maisie and the dove. And then here, I'll also hold that up so you can see, because there's a little bit better lighting with the camera that's on my face, so might as well put it to good use. Seeing the card, in my opinion, is a little bit more exciting than seeing my face. So, and for the final embellishment, I think I picked the wrong direction, but you know, we can make it work. So I think what I'm going to do here is, to get this to fit, what I can do is trim it to stop at the edge of the sentiment, because I just wanted to add that little bit of extra detail here with one of the, let me cut that at an angle. I guess, wait a second. Alright, so I need to cut that corner just so it's flush. You know, this is more precise than I probably have to be. Oh, that was not at an angle, was it? Yeah, let's what a good demonstration. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's do this again. Is that the perfect? Okay, let me get that out of the way. All right, so what I can do is I want to get it lined up where it's just off the edge here, but it should not block you from being able to put this in the envelope, if that makes sense. So let me, let's see, do I need to, let me look at it. Sometimes it's easy to see what you need to do to fix it if you look through the viewfinder. So let me just take a peek and see what we got here. I think I might darken it up just a little bit. Not too much, not too much, because we do have the light color of the dove and the light color of the sentiment, but it does seem just a little bit too white on the edges here. So we'll just, again, add that little bit of interest to kind of bring it all in together, if that makes sense. So now, because the sentiment or the embellishment is going to be on the top layer, I will have to add some more of the foam tape, not a whole lot. And then I will also be able to use glue now to attach it to the part where it's right on top of the focal point. So I already have the foam tape here, and let me just kind of line it up here to see how much or where the best position will be. All right, so what I can do is I'm going to cut this in half again, because this is about keeping the focal point stable so it doesn't also start dipping down and getting that dip in it from handling or going through the mail. Because again, this is not really very thin. This is, she always sends a really good cardstock weight in her products and her packages and stuff like that. So that makes it a lot easier to help keep things from getting that dip in handling, if that makes sense. So let's see, where else will I need it? Making sure it's all in the right spot. Yeah, that should be good. I think I can do one more little piece here. I'll come in at an angle because I don't need it across the whole part of the head of the daffodil. So that should be good. It gives me just that little bit of lift to, again, make everything level, as well as keeping it from denting or dipping in when it gets mailed or handled. Because sometimes if you press on it and you don't have enough support, you'll get the indentations in there. So, all right, let me just double check. Is that in the right spot? I think. Yeah, I think we are good to go. All right. So to finish off, I'm going to just go ahead and stick this down, and I will add some glue to the parts, like I said, that are going to be coming across and attached to the focal point. But this has really been such a fun collection. So if you have not, sorry, let me check the comments. Where is the, okay, just making sure. I'm getting better, you guys, at, getting much better at trying to keep an eye on everything. Getting better at keeping my hands in the frame. That was quite hilarious back in the early days when I started making the videos, of trying to remember to keep my my hands in frame. So I'm just lining this up here. And for those of you who are tuning in, thank you. And it's morning here where I'm at. We're almost to the afternoon, but it's still morning. So good morning, but happy afternoon, happy evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. All right, so one more little dab of glue on this petal, and we're good to go. So let me get this stuff tidied up, and then the last thing I'm going to do is add the Nuvo drops. And I'm thinking I might need a different color because there's nothing blue in here. So I grabbed the wrong color. Thankfully, they're right by my desk. I'm telling you, man, when you're setting up your craft room, logistics is everything. So I definitely recommend leaving stuff that you're going to use most frequently, what you're going to want to keep closest to your desk. So let me just see where, find the right shade of green or another color that might work well with finishing this off. So let's take a look. You know, I think this will be fun. This is the Nuvo Jewel Drops in... this one dries translucent. This one is called Key Lime. If you can see that, let me hold it up. I know it might look a little different in the viewfinder or whatever on the camera, but it's a really pretty pale green, so that'll be really nice. It'll add a little bit of color, but not too much. But the green coordinates a lot better than that blue, so that was my bad choice. Oh well, okay. So I'm just going to do, I generally stay with the 5 count or the odd number rule for adding the embellishments. So I'll do 2 up here and I'll do 3 drops down on the bottom. I don't know why it is our eyes tend to like odd numbers with this kind of stuff, but they do. So I'm just going to add a little bit here, and I'll just make them like a little bit different sizes. This is the nice thing about using stuff like the Nuvo drops. You got a lot more control in the size of the drops that you want to use if you want to like give a variety. But you can also, once you get a feel for it, then you get pretty good at keeping them about the same size. But I don't want to get too technical. because, trying to stay out of my mental left field, like I said. I'm really proud. I did pretty good today of staying on track. So that's the card. That is just the quick card tutorial. So just to recap, recommendations if you need to have an idea of how to put cards together quickly, just keep a small stash of supplies with pre-made card bases, sentiments, embellishments, either things like the Nouveau drops or gemstones if you don't have time to let the Nouveau drops dry. You could even obviously also have envelopes to put the cards into, and focal points, stuff like that. Just keep like a little ready kit nearby if you don't have room right on your desk, but maybe keep it somewhere close to you, so it's easy to grab and you can just sit down and put one together really quick. Again, I use the A2 size as my go-to card base, so I pre-cut those down, and again, the A2 size is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. If you take one sheet of 8 1/2 by 11, if you want to make them yourself, because that does cut down the cost, rather than always buying pre-made, just take that 8 1/2 by 11, cut it in half, and then fold each half, and you got 2 card bases right there. So that's what I do. I get pre-made card bases sometimes if they come in a kit or things like that, but primarily the last 3 years, I just transitioned over to pre-cutting them down myself, just because if you get them on sale, like at a store like Michael's, where you can get one big pack of 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock, if it's 100 sheets per pack and you cut those in half, then you just gave yourself 200 card bases. So that's what I use to kind of calculate how many card bases I can get if I cut it down myself. So again, just a little quick tip, keep a little go kit next to you if you need to do something on the fly. The measurements I use are the 8 1/4 or 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card bases. My matting layers, I start them by cutting the cardstock down to pieces that are 4 and 5 1/4 inches, and then after that, whatever focal point you have. So just again, a quick little tutorial on what I do, the measurements I use to put a card together if I need one quickly, and you kind of will get a feel for what method from what I put out today that will work best for you. So all right, so that was the mini tutorial. So now what I'm going to do is get into, let me move this so I don't smudge the Nouveau drops. Okay, so I'm finally getting to running the giveaway that I've been wanting to do. I've started it a couple times, but then I had to back off because of stuff going on in the background. So today is that day. I am starting the giveaway as of today, which is Monday the 24th, and I'm going to leave it open all the way through midnight my time, which is the Eastern Standard Time, or New York time if you're not sure if you live abroad, because this is going to be open to everybody. Because it's not going to be a physical gift, that makes it a lot easier. There's no worry about shipping or anything like that. What I'm going to be giving away is, I'll be doing giveaways for a few gift cards from Amazon. So all I would need for the winners would be an email when I do the drawing. And I can get more into the specifics of that detail of what email you want to send your info to for me and all of that on the day that I'm doing the drawing. But again, it's running from today, right now, while I'm doing this live stream, until Sunday the 31st, and that will end at midnight my time, which is New York time here in the US. So it's going to be a few gift cards, and you have to be a subscriber, because that's the point of this, is to thank you guys for hanging out with me, because this seriously is just the best community, and it's not a community of me. This is not just about me, and this is a small way to give back not only as a thank you, but to support the community, because it is definitely a... Hi, Christine. Yeah, I also smudged the Nouveau drops. I'm so glad you can be here. And I'm staying on track. I'm so proud. But anyway, so I lost my train of thought. Sorry. What you need to do is, when this video goes into replay, don't do the 5 hearts now in the comments. Don't do it now, because I don't know how to save the comments yet, or if you even can during a live stream. So when I'm done with this, I don't know how long it takes this video to go to replay mode, but as soon as it is available to rewatch, then you can leave your name, or well, of course it'll leave your name, sorry. But when this goes on replay, that's when you're going to want to come back in and leave 5 purple hearts for me, and that's how I will know that you want to be entered into the giveaway. So like, I see you, Christine. Don't leave your 5 hearts now if you want to participate in the giveaway. Do that after this goes to replay. Because again, I have no idea. I'm still learning all the basics of just putting up a live stream, let alone, all the fancy stuff. So I'm so glad you found. I know this was like last minute, but there's so many other things I had to get to this week that today was the best day to put out the information for the live stream. So I just jumped in there. But I am so happy that you're here. And I think that was it. So let me just recap so I can keep my brain straight. The giveaway starts today, like right now. I need you to be a subscriber, because that's the whole point of the giveaway, is to thank you guys as subscribers. It's going to run through midnight my time on the 31st. That will be the end of the open period. So 3:31 is the actual date. Or no, 3:30 is the actual date. I'm sorry. Monday is the 31st. I'm just confusing myself. Sorry. Oh, this is where my brain starts going sideways, so I appreciate your patience. So it runs from today till Sunday the 30th. That's why I got it wrong. I wrote it wrong. Sunday, March 30th, midnight my time. You need to leave 5 purple hearts in the comments if you're a subscriber. And I am planning to do the drawing the following weekend, so that would be the first weekend in April. Will be when I'm planning to do the giveaway, and I will do that. Either I'll pre-record it or I'll jump on and do another live like this one. And I think that's it. So I think that was it. I did the mini tutorial, the giveaway info, and again, it's going to be a few e-gift cards from Amazon. So that is, again, open to anybody. If you got an email, I can get it to you if you're the winner. And then, yeah, I already said I'll be doing the drawing. I'm planning on doing the drawing the weekend, that first weekend in April. And then also making a note, there is some really fun upcoming news that I need to share with you guys, but I'm not ready yet. So stay tuned for that. So I think that's it. I think I did cover everything. So definitely appreciate you guys being here. Christine, it was so fun seeing you pop in. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. And then, like I said, when it goes to replay, when this live stream goes to replay, this is the video you're going to want to add your 5 hearts to on the replay, because if I try to say go here and do this, it just gets confusing. So we'll just use the replay as the go-to place for you guys to come in and leave your 5 hearts. So all right, I'm gonna let it go. Christine, I hope you are having an awesome day. Happy Monday to you, and I will definitely be seeing you guys in the next video.